One designed a state, the other designed a building. One built it on the wreckage of an empire and used it to swallow 7 million people. The other built it across the street from a pharmacy in Chicago and used it to swallow at least 27. Both were engineers of mechanized murder. Both proved that the right architecture, applied with patience and discipline, can turn a human population into raw material. Only one of them advances. Tonight, Vladimir Lenin against Henry Howard Holmes, better known to history as H. Holmes. The revolutionary against the architect. Round of 16, match 6. Vladimir Lenin arrives in this round as the wild-card champion of episode 24, where he defeated Ivan the Terrible by being the founder of every 20th century totalitarian state. H. Holmes arrives as the champion of episode 5, where he defeated Jack the Ripper by orders of magnitude in confirmed body count, operating range, and the sheer industrial design of his methods. Tonight, the man who built a state designed to consume human beings against the man who built a hotel designed to do the same thing. One question: whose architecture killed more efficiently? Welcome back to Evil vs. Evil, Monsters of History. The Tournament of Champions continues. This is episode 30. Born in Simbirsk, on the Volga River in Russia, in 1870, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov was the third of 6 children in a comfortable, professional family. His father was a school inspector. His mother was the educated daughter of a doctor and spoke 3 languages. The Ulyanov children were brilliant, disciplined, and politically alert. In 1887, Vladimir's older brother Alexander was hanged at the age of 21 for participating in a plot to assassinate Tsar Alexander III. 17-year-old Vladimir reportedly said, on hearing the news, that there must be another way. He spent the rest of his life finding it. He studied law. He devoured Karl Marx. He became a professional revolutionary. He was arrested. He was exiled to Siberia. He fled Russia entirely and spent 15 years in exile across Europe, writing pamphlets, founding journals, and quietly assembling the most disciplined revolutionary cadre in European history. He called them the Bolsheviks. When the First World War shattered the Russian Empire and the February Revolution of 1917 toppled the Tsar, Lenin returned to Russia on a sealed train provided by the German government. On October 25th, 1917, by the old Russian calendar, Lenin and his Bolsheviks stormed the Winter Palace in Petrograd, arrested the provisional government, and seized control of Russia. They had perhaps 20,000 active fighters in a country of 160 million people. Within months, they were running the entire state. Lenin moved fast. He withdrew Russia from World War I. He nationalized industry. He abolished private property. He shut down opposition newspapers. He banned every other political party. And he created the institution that would become the model for every 20th century police state: the Cheka. A secret police force authorized to arrest, interrogate, and execute anyone deemed an enemy of the revolution. The Russian Civil War followed. Between 1918 and 1922, an estimated 7 to 12 million people died, mostly civilians. Lenin authorized the Red Terror, an explicit policy of mass execution. Hundreds of thousands were shot. In 1921, during a famine he had helped engineer through forced grain requisitions, he wrote a letter ordering local officials to seize grain from churches and hang as many priests as possible in public squares. He suffered the first of 3 strokes in May 1922. He died on January 21st, 1924, at the age of 53. His body was preserved and placed inside a glass coffin in Red Square, where it remains today, almost exactly 100 years later. That was Lenin, the revolutionary who built a state on the bones of every previous one. Born in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, in 1861, Herman Webster Mudgett was the son of devout Methodist farmers in a small rural town. He was a strange, intelligent boy, mocked by other children for his intellect and his frailty. According to his own later confession, the moment that broke him came when older boys dragged him into a doctor's office and forced him to touch a human skeleton. He was supposed to scream. Instead, he became fascinated. He attended medical school at the University of Michigan, where he discovered his true calling. Not medicine, insurance fraud. He stole cadavers from the school's anatomy lab, disfigured them to be unrecognizable, planted them at fake accident scenes, and collected on insurance policies he had taken out under false names. In 1886, he abandoned his wife and child, moved to Chicago, and reinvented himself with a new name, Henry Howard Holmes. He took a job at a pharmacy. The owner mysteriously disappeared. Holmes took over the building. And then, across the street, he began to build. The structure he constructed at 63rd and Wallace would later be called the Murder Castle. It was 3 stories tall, half a city block long, and entirely his own design. The ground floor held legitimate shops. The upper 2 floors were a labyrinth that defied human comprehension. Doors that opened onto blank walls, staircases that led nowhere, hallways that looped back on themselves, rooms with peepholes from the next room over, rooms with gas jets controlled from his private office, rooms lined with asbestos and steel, soundproofed against any scream. Beneath the building was a basement that no guest ever saw. It contained a dissection table, a surgical kit, a kiln large enough to cremate a human body, a vat of acid, a pit of quicklime, and a set of greased chutes that ran from the upper floor murder rooms directly down into the basement. In 1893, the World's Columbian Exposition came to Chicago. More than 27 million people visited the city over 6 months. Holmes rented out his hotel rooms to fairgoers, primarily young women traveling alone. Many of them checked in. Not all of them checked out. He killed his own employees. He killed his lovers. He killed business partners and competitors. He sold the skeletons of his victims to medical schools, completing the perfect economic loop. The body that paid for his medical school now paid for his fortune. He was finally caught not for murder, but for insurance fraud, after killing his longtime partner Benjamin Petezel and 3 of Petezel's children. He was hanged in Philadelphia on May 7th, 1896. He confessed to 27 murders before he died. Historians today believe the real number is somewhere between 9 and over 200. That was H.H. Holmes, the killer who built a machine. Now, let us put these 2 architects side by side in the round of 16. Category 1, body count. Lenin, Shred Terror, killed approximately 250,000 directly. The Russian Civil War he triggered killed 7 to 12 million. The famine he engineered killed 5 million more. Holmes killed between 9 and possibly 200. The edge is Lenin, by every conceivable measure of scale. Category 2, architectural sophistication. Lenin's state was a sprawling continental apparatus that took millions of bureaucrats and decades to build out. Holmes designed his castle alone, sketching the blueprints himself, hiring multiple construction crews and firing them mid-project so no single worker would understand the building as a whole. The edge in scale of construction is Lenin. The edge in pure design intent per square foot is Holmes. Category 3, method of consumption. Lenin's victims were processed through the Cheka, the show trial, the cattle car, and the firing squad or labor camp. Holmes' victims were processed through gas jets, asbestos walls, dissection tables, and acid baths. Both methods reduced human beings to disposable material. The edge in volume is Lenin. The edge in surgical precision is Holmes. Category 4, capacity for greater damage. This is the tournament category. Lenin died young, at 53, in the middle of building. Given another decade, he would have lived to oversee Stalin's purges and the collectivization, and might have produced an even more catastrophic Soviet state. Holmes was caught after 8 years and operated at the absolute ceiling of what one man could do without state cover. Given another decade of freedom, his ceiling probably reaches the low hundreds. The edge in unrealized capacity is Lenin, by orders of magnitude. Category 5. Long-term influence. Lenin wrote the operating manual for global totalitarianism. Every 20th century communist leader, Stalin, Mao, Castro, Ho Chi Minh, the Kims, Pol Pot, studied his theoretical works. Holmes inspired the American serial killer mythology and the concept of the trap house. The edge in scale is Lenin. The edge in pop culture footprint is Holmes. So the categories split 4-1 in favor of Lenin. But categories do not capture everything. Here is the wild card. What if Holmes had been given Lenin's state apparatus? He had the engineering imagination. He had the patience. He had the willingness to dehumanize. With the Cheka at his disposal and the resources of a continental state, Holmes might have built death camps a generation before the Nazis did. Now, what if Lenin had been given Holmes' murder castle? He would not have known what to do with it. Lenin needed scale. He needed populations. A single building, even a brilliantly designed one, would have been beneath his ambition. Each man's evil was calibrated to his available tools. The verdict: Vladimir Lenin advances. H. Holmes is eliminated from the bracket. The decision is not close. Lenin built a state designed to consume human beings, and that state ran for 74 years after his death, killing tens of millions more. Holmes built a building designed to consume human beings, and the building was demolished within a year of his arrest. The state outlasted the man. The building outlasted only its architect. But here is the part that should disturb you. H. Holmes is taught in American history books as the first serial killer. He is treated as a monstrous figure precisely because his crimes were intimate and personal. Lenin, who killed at scales Holmes could not even imagine, is taught in political science departments as a serious theoretician of revolutionary change. The intimate killer is condemned. The systematic killer is studied. We have, as a culture, decided that murder at scale is a matter of policy. Murder at the personal level is a matter of evil. Lenin was the state. Holmes was the building. Vladimir Lenin moves on to the quarterfinals. H. Holmes is eliminated from the Tournament of Champions. Next episode. Kim Jong-il against Ted Bundy, the reclusive dictator who hid behind a god mask, against the charming predator who hid behind a smile. Round of 16, match 7.